And I will say, like, now, like, my mindset for, like, competing is the best it's probably ever been. Yeah. Like, I'd rather be entertaining and lose than fight, going out there and just, like, fighting not to lose.
Welcome to the Fuel Hunt Show.
What's going on, Eagles? I'm Joey. I'm here with Drew, and today we are joined by Amanda Leve. Amanda, what's going on? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very, very, very well. Doing very well. I'm excited about today's episode. This is the first time we've met in person, so I'm excited to get to know you a little bit better. I know the community is as well. We talked about this, former MMA fighter, pro grappler. Most of our community knows you. But what I would like to do is dive a little bit into maybe like, you know, your mindset in competing, right? How you got started in Jiu-Jitsu and then MMA. Touch on your match with Gabby Garcia a little bit. So we'll bounce around, and then obviously anything else you want to speak about too.
Awesome.
Sound
good?
Yeah.
Yep.
So let's so we're Philly kids, right? We're all Philly kids, right?
Yep.
So you're what neighborhood?
Northeast Philly.
Yeah,
so
Northeast
like
Philly.
Parkwood, Chalfont area. Yep.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So let's get started with Jiu-Jitsu. Jiu-Jitsu came before MMA for you, right? So how did you get started in Jiu-Jitsu?
My dad was huge in the UFC.
Okay.
Him and my uncle. So they like would watch it all the time, and they always like loved the like ground aspect of it because it was like something different.
Which not everyone does. Everyone's like, they get all mad when they go to the ground.
Yeah.
Like, stand up and fight. Like,
I know, but you know what? It's so entertaining when you see like, especially like Sean and the Gilbert match. Like when it's high level grappling, it's so entertaining to watch.
I really feel, and not that I'm only a blue belt, but I feel you have to really enjoy that, like somewhat of an understanding of what's going on though. Do you agree with that? Like, I feel like it might be maybe for a layman, like it's hard to understand what's actually happening, but for us, like people that actually like do the sport, it's like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah. Absolutely. I definitely can see that.
So it's interesting that they, like you said, like they were excited about the ground game.
Yeah. So
did they
which is funny.
Did they practice or no? They just enjoyed watching.
They just enjoyed watching it.
It is sick. It is sick.
They were like big fans of hockey, and back in the day when you could actually fight in hockey, they would like love that.
Yeah.
So that's probably why they loved MMA so much when it came around.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So yes, and then he looked for a place to sign my brother up, and I was just a super athletic kid, so. My dad was like, oh my gosh, like after watching him do the class, was like, this would be so great for Amanda because they were doing push-ups. And I was like a weirdo. I did like push-ups during commercial breaks, like at home, or like sit-ups. Like I was just always an athlete. And like I always say like now, I'm like, I just want to be an athlete for my whole life. Like I want to identify as an athlete. I don't want to ever stop moving my body. Like it feels good. Yeah. So I just want to keep that athlete title.
What sports were you playing before you, like how old was that?
So I was 11 at the time.
Okay.
So I played like softball, basketball.
Okay.
And then started jiu-jitsu, and it's like funny because like that was probably like 2009, and like no one knew what jiu-jitsu was, so I didn't even tell anyone when I was in like school. It was just kind of funny.
They would have no. People don't even know now.
Yeah,
like,
you
for
say, sure.
Barker says I do jiu-jitsu to a kid at school. They wouldn't even know what he's talking about. Like I can't imagine those days.
Yeah, my grandpa still calls it karate.
Like, he thinks you're a karate. He thinks you're a karate instructor. I forgot what to say, but I was we talked about Dylan. It's always the people that found jiu-jitsu back in that day in that era. Like it was like their Uncle Bob like drove past the thing that said jiu-jitsu, and they just so happened to find it. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like it's so cool to see how much it's grown too. Again, from like no one knowing what it was, and now I can say it, and people are like, "Oh my gosh, I know someone who does it," or something like that.
What the push-ups and the sit-ups during commercial breaks when you're watching TV? How did that come about? Was that like a coach?
Sure. No,
like from one of your...
I think I'm just like I was like a hyper kid.
or maybe like you just said, like moving your body feels great. Maybe you just realized that at a young age.
Was your dad an active guy? Like he would work out?
Like my parents are still not active, and it kills me. But I'm like, can you guys just go for a walk? Like, please do something.
No, sure, just walk.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought for sure her dad was like, she's gonna be like, my dad's a physical specimen.
No. I wish he would like. I'm like, I even tell him because he needs to lose weight. I'm like, we meal prepped for him before to like really? Actually. I'm like, that all you used to do is just grab it out of the fridge.
Just take it, eat it.
And he wouldn't do it. I'm like, people would pay for this. People do pay for this.
He's living vicariously through you.
My parents are the same way. I'm like, if you just walked, like it would be. And then they say they're doing meat and fruit, but then I mean, they're both of y'all listen to this, but then they're like go out to eat. Then they're going out to eat every other day. I'm like, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know what our parents like. What'll make it click in their head, but
Nothing.
Yeah.
I don't think anything.
Yeah.
No.
I love that story though of doing sit-ups and push-ups during commercial
Yeah,
breaks.
I
think that's
doing
what
that.
it is. Maybe you just figured out young.
Yeah, I
you
think
know,
so. I
like
think
it made
so.
you feel good. So why not do it?
Yep.
I did something similar when I was young. I used to run the steps in my house, like and we had a twin in Fox Chase, and I used to run the steps. But I was running the steps because I was getting bullied at school, and I was like, oh, like I'm just gonna. I put on ankle weights. My mom had like those
Get
like
strong.
ankle weights from like her like aerobics
Yeah.
she used to do, and I used to run up and down the steps.
I was
But-
obese as a kid, so I can't
yeah.
relate to
You didn't even have to.
A
do that.
unit, a full unit.
Yeah, you didn't even have to. You didn't even have to do anything.
Yeah, I was just sitting there. I'm more identifying with your dad. I can relate.
So 11, you started jiu-jitsu. So you didn't really, obviously, no one was really doing, well, I can't say no one was really doing it. It wasn't as popular as it is now.
No, absolutely not.
And I have to imagine that you were probably the only female or one of few females at your school at the
Yeah.
time, right?
Yeah, so
I
I
would say.
bounced around like over the years of doing jiu-jitsu, and even in my early stages of the first couple gyms I've been to, sometimes I was the only kid and only girl in
Yeah.
the adult classes because like they wouldn't
Oh,
even have
that's
kids classes.
Oh,
so
wow.
yeah,
That's
so
wild.
I mean I know so many people in the jiu-jitsu community just because I've trained with so many people,
Yeah.
and like back in the day, like they were all like big brothers to me. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I was like so fortunate that I had such encouraging guys around.
Yeah.
You know, like that were willing to roll with me because like
Sure.
who, especially back then, like who wants to roll with
Well, you're not
an
even.
11-year-old, 12-year-old girl?
So you'd be
Right.
a 12-year-old kid in an adult class.
Yeah, with
I
men,
didn't
just
even think
full
of that.
men.
Like
Yeah.
that
Oh,
would.
that's wild.
I didn't even think of that. Like
That's
they wouldn't
wild.
even have enough
I
kids.
assume that there were at least some like a teens class or something like an
Yeah.
adult now.
No.
Wow,
And
that's
then
wild.
yeah, so I was again just lucky, like, you know, like I know a lot of like girls will say some of them have like bad experiences in jiu-jitsu, and I will say every school I've been to, most of the time where I was the only girl and
Yep.
only kid, I was so fortunate to be around such great people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I gotta imagine, you know, maybe there were a lot of girls that tried and quit because
Oh,
that's
yeah.
not for everybody. Like that's intimidating in itself, going into an adults class with all full-grown men that have been training or practicing for a while. You know what I mean?
And I have seen some guys just get like super weird about when a girl goes on the mat.
That's
I don't know
super- yeah,
what it
it's
is.
super
Like
weird.
they just get super excited and they just want to like just teach the girl thing.
Yeah,
It's
it's
like,
so weird. It's so weird,
Yeah.
man. I feel like they behave that way in like real life too.
Yeah,
like there are
yeah,
dudes that behave that way
yeah.
in real life too. It's so fucking
they're the
strange.
creepers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was do you remember what your first class was like when you walked
yeah,
in?
so actually the first place I was at, there was a kids class for.
Oh,
Okay.
But I didn't stay there long because it was in Jersey, so it was kind of like a hike to get to.
Got you.
I didn't think of that either. Like the jiu-jitsu gyms aren't as plentiful as they are nowadays. Like
100%. Now you just throw a stone and you hit a jiu-jitsu
Exactly.
school.
So you were
Yeah.
driving from Parkwood to Jersey to
Yeah.
get yeah.
Oh wow.
So there was an actual kids class, and it was a great kids class because they did like MMA classes almost. So it was like striking some days and then jiu-jitsu other days.
Okay.
So you got like the look of both. Like I remember my brother learned how to kick so efficiently there that when we would get in fights like as kids, me and my sister would be like, "Don't kick us," you know?
Yeah.
And like trying to
Yeah.
prevent him from
Great
kicking
distance.
us.
Yeah.
He would land those kicks, and he had like the perfect form.
Yeah.
And to this day, he's still great at kicks.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the kids class was great. So I remember, you know, like just like a funny story of my first kids class is I remember we were doing like back takes and it was like in turtle, and the guy was like, "All right, now like put your hooks in." But like I didn't know what hooks were, like you know how like your feet go
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
Like
Oh.
so I'm thinking like he meant like hooks, like punching hooks. You
Oh
know what I
my
mean?
God.
Like so I was like I didn't actually like punch a kid, but I was like this, and he's like no. And he he like
Yeah.
kind of laughed.
Your feet, your legs.
But yeah, I remember just like liking the class, and my mom went too, and mom was like, "She's not gonna like this," because you know obviously she didn't want me doing like the
Yeah.
combat
Yeah,
sport. And my dad's like, "Yeah, she does. She'll be fine." And then I got off the mat. My dad said, "Do you want to do it?" I was like, "Yeah, I want to sign up." So he ended up signing me up. He like threw me in my first tournament when I was like 4 months in. Like I had no idea what I
Really?
was doing. But my dad's like a competitive person. Like anything, any sport I did, dude, it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
to the max of like, or we're practicing at home. Like there were so many times where I like would pitch for softball. He would take me out by myself. Like we would go to like a field and he would just have me pitch. So like
Yeah.
any
I'm the
sport
s-
I did, he was just
Yeah.
hands on. Let's let's get you good.
I'm the same way with him. I'm like, anything we're gonna do in life, like we believe is like we're gonna be the best at it. You know, we're not, no half measure. So it's like he started baseball recently, like last year, and it's like we practice baseball every day. And it's that he's made so much progress because the rule of I forget what the rule of 1,000, but like if you practice every day, something for even like 15, 20, 30 minutes, you're making that much more progress than every other person in your competition.
Oh yeah. Same with the gym. Everybody wants to go to the gym and spend like 3 hours there. It's like really you can go 30 minutes. Like it's the consistency if you're doing the right stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just so much more fun when you're better you're better than everyone else at the sport.
I will say, my theory with myself, my own journey in jiu-jitsu is that I'm not good at it. So I'm like, it's a puzzle that I need to figure out. I'm like, I would love to be good at jiu-jitsu. Like you know what I mean? I can only imagine how fun it is for someone like you or Danny and Nick at Movement, like just to come in and just like be able to just do whatever.
I'm really good at this.
You're like, I'm good at that. Like just doing whatever you want, like trying new things on people. But I think that's why I love jiu-jitsu much because I need to figure out how to be good.
I agree.
100%. And I mean, honestly, I don't even still have that. You think being good at jiu-jitsu, quote unquote, you would have that mentality, like, oh, it's nice to come in and just like, but like still, there's still days where you're just like, dude, I cannot figure this the hell out.
There's so many components to it: the mental, the physical, everything. That like, I'm sure, like from a technical standpoint, you could be excellent, but maybe you're just not there mentally that day.
Yeah,
you have a bad day.
Are there ever days? Honestly, like you get off the mat, and you're like, why the fuck do I even do this? Like,
Still, well, like especially if I'm in like a training camp or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where like it almost feels like the pressure's on. So like it's the pressure, then you have a bad training day. So honestly, MMA helped me a lot with getting my head to like a neutral place about practices. Before I was way more of a head case. And I don't know if you guys know James Lyons from Marquez.
I went to a jiu-jitsu class with Dylan Royce one time, and he absolutely just mauled me.
Dude,
like,
James is a beast.
He just spun it on my like all over. He's just so fast.
Yes, and scrambly.
Yeah, I'm like I cannot do it. He just murdered me for.
I was supposed to go that night. I couldn't make it because I had my girls. So I texted Drew and I was like, "Oh, how was it?" You know, because I really want to get over there. I'm like, "How was it?" He was like, "I got partnered with James Lyon, got mauled the entire time." How do you think it was?
Sean and Coach John were just laughing hysterically at me like during that roll because it was so embarrassing.
Wild.
But anyway,
So he was like a big factor in my MMA training. So as a coach, so you know when I would have those hard practices, he like said to me, he's like, "Amanda, you could have the best camp leading up to a match and have the worst performance of your life, or you could have the worst, or vice versa.
Vice versa, yeah.
So he was like, you can't look at each practice and be like, oh, I did good or bad. He's like, it's neutral. You got in, you practice. Yeah. That's it.
You did the work.
Yes. That's all you can do. So I'm like, oh, you're right.
A very profound. I've heard that James Lyon's a great coach too. Like, just a wildly profound thing to say, and like it's funny how certain things people say to you on your journey in life to wherever you're going. Like stick with you. It seems like that like one sentence or one interaction like really like played a huge part in your
100%.
growth.
And he like is good for going on rants, and it's so funny because I always agree with him and everything he does. So I just let him rant. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Dude.
Let's go.
You're right.
It's the you can control the input, but you can't control the output.
Yeah.
And if you just focus on controlling the input, like the work that you're going to do, the effort that you're putting forward, then you don't have to worry about the output or the outcome.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So first competition, 4 months in. So I'm assuming you're drilling at home.
Oh my god!
You're doing some stuff at home, right?
Actually, the night before, I'm pretty sure it was like my dad and my uncle, and they're like just looking up YouTube videos and like, okay, well you can do this, well, and I'm like, my gi was like 5 times the size of me. I got killed in like 15 seconds my first match. I cried. Really? I wanted to go home. Yeah. That's what I tell everyone. I'm like, dude, I lost my first match in 15 seconds. Yeah. Okay. Like you'll just keep going.
Yeah,
exactly. And with the kids too, Parker has done a couple competitions, and it's like there's always I feel like the aura of competition is just so intense, and like you're out there playing real-time gladiators with another kid, like they want to kill you. Like if you lose, it's so emotional for like an 8-year. Like how you were 12.
Yeah, 11. So like Yeah, for sure.
So if you ever go to
Emotional
those kids
roller coaster.
competitions, there's tears everywhere. Like,
Speak for yourself with the kids thing. Like, I feel like some adults, I'm not going to name any names, but some adults might cry after jiu-jitsu class.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Maybe. What was it? Naga or Grappling Industries or something? Was it like
It was Naga.
Oh, it was
Yeah,
Naga.
yep.
Okay.
Um,
So the first 15 seconds sub.
Yeah,
sub
armbar.
armbar.
so were you out that, or was it like do you go to the losers bracket?
yeah, so I lost, and then it was like I did nogi. It was like gi or nogi next, and then
So you say
I
little
ended up
2 p.m.
winning one, and then
Okay.
of course
Okay.
once you win, that's the feeling everyone. looks
You're like,
for.
this is possible.
Yes.
This is possible.
Your first hand raise too. Like, it's just,
100%. And
Yeah.
that's just the game changer that kept me going. Now I just chase that feeling all the time.
yeah.
I have a feeling that I know what you and your dad did after the loss or after the first competition, but tell us what was it like afterwards?
Oh, so he was like good about it actually for the first one, but
Yeah.
as I started going throughout the years, dude, my dad was hard on me. Like
Yeah.
there was like no jokes. Like if I lost, I'm like, damn, I have to get in the car. I'm gonna hear it.
Yeah.
But and I know that made me better, right? Like I know a lot of people like are against that. And I am to an extent too, but I also know that I wouldn't be as good if he didn't have that pressure on me
Yeah,
and didn't
that's
have
great.
that mentality with
Yeah.
me. And again, like I think it depends on the kid. I would never do that to my kids, like how hard he was on me. I think there's a better way of going about it.
Yeah.
But I still have to give credit where credit's
Yeah,
due.
100%.
At the end of the day, I would not be where I am if it
And-
wasn't for those car rides home
Yeah,
where I
we're-
was like, damn it.
And we're all motivated differently too. Like I feel like
Exactly.
that, if, like I
Exactly.
got that same kind of motivation, I might respond well too.
Plus, there's different types of. I mean, I know I got it, not in jiu-jitsu, but like with school and academics and things. Like my mom was hard on me, man, like hard on me. And now I think too. How long ago was that? So how old are you now?
I am 27,
Okay,
but
so I
that
figure
probably stopped maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Like-
Well, I'm saying from your first
It still
competition,
happens, yeah.
right? That's like like over a decade ago, right? Like
Yeah.
2 decades or whatever. There's more tools available now. Like even my mom was hard on me
Yeah.
when I was growing up. But like now there's like more tools available. Like I feel like she would have been able to say like, oh wait, hold on, I could frame this a little bit better
Yeah.
to like get actually more potential out of Joey instead of like, smacking him around or like chasing him,
Yeah.
around, like trying to
Yeah.
get me to do better at school.
I haven't had to do like I haven't yelled or anything yet. Like gotten like super like too
I
intense.
wish I
but
would. I wish
but
I could say the same.
I do give like after every baseball game, I'll like we rate his fielding, his batting,
Yeah,
his
we do.
pitching.
Yeah,
Like,
we do that.
like I mean, you definitely need to give that like what's measured improves. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, for Everly with softball, she's now like we did kind of the same thing. I'd ask her first, like, how do you think you did today?
exactly.
How do you think you did today? She'd be like, well, we lost. And I'm like, no, not the way that you, like, how'd you do? Like, could you have done anything differently? And she was like, well, yes, I didn't know this. So we start there, and then I was doing the ratings.
Yeah.
But I try to like just pick like 1 to 3 things to talk about. Usually just one. Like, hey, like when you were at second and you fielded the ball, like you didn't crow hop, like you turned your back to the ball, or something. Like pick one
Yeah.
thing. But that conversation with her, like game after game, it led to the solution, which was more practice,
Yes.
which was literally more reps. So now she's in, like you saw the video I had the other, she's not playing fall ball, but she wanted to go to the field and she wanted to hit the ball a little bit because now she gets it. She's like, okay, like you're going to ask me how I thought I did. You're going to analyze how I did. And the only way that we can have a great conversation about those 2 things is if I'm practicing.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So
how many days a week would your dad have you training?
Pretty much every day.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn.
And like I wanted to go every day, so it was never like
No, yeah.
yeah, like I know like a lot of parents have problems with like their kids don't want to go. Like I wanted to go.
you wanted to be
I
there.
think-
And if I didn't want to go, he'd be like, okay, like we're not going to go today. Like he wouldn't.
Yeah.
He respected the fact if I didn't feel like going that day
But
because
I-
I never felt like I never like
Yep.
made
A
an
lot of
excuse.
parents say they can't get their kids to do things like that. And I really think it comes down to what you instill in your kid at an early age. Like, you just knew work had to be done. Like, there was, like, you had to work, you had to do things.
My
Like,
dad said he knew I was competitive when he put me in Tball, and
Yeah.
like they would always, it's just like Tball, so they would just have you like hit the ball,
Yeah,
and, like,
yeah,
and I would always ask who won
Yeah,
after,
Yep.
and I would get mad because they would always say it was a tie, and
Yeah.
then the one time I didn't want to go, he's like, "Why don't you want to go?" He's like, "Because they always say it's a tie."
Yeah,
And
I'm
he's
not
like,
gonna-
I
I'm not
did
gonna win
right
anyway.
there.
That's amazing.
I'm not gonna win
love
anyway.
that. I love that. My daughters did the same thing. They asked they would always ask who won, and this is like recent history.
It
'cause
matters.
My,
It matters.
it
And you got to
matters.
teach kids how to lose.
Yeah,
I am
You
so
do.
for
You
have to know how to lose to know how to win.
I agree.
What you just said is so profound. Teach them how to lose.
Yeah.
You have to let them lose, and then you have to teach them how to lose.
Yep.
The problem with everything nowadays is kids aren't taught how to lose.
Yeah.
They
Exactly.
don't understand the meaning, the purpose, and the power behind it.
Yeah.
Like his basketball league, it's like didn't keep score. I'm like, yeah, kids running around playing basketball, and he would get in the car and be like, "We won, Dad." I'm like, "Parker, you just got blown." I'm keeping
blown
score. I
out.
was like, "You guys got blown out."
Yeah.
My,
We need a reality
Yeah,
check here.
exactly.
my youngest is still in T-ball, and she'll ask who won, which I love that question.
Yeah.
But I'm not as hard on her as I am with my
Yeah.
oldest, who's 8. But she'll ask who won. T-ball is like, I don't want to we're a little off topic, but that's
Yeah.
okay. T-ball's wild. Like even now in my neighborhood, I live in Center City, so my daughter plays on the field that's in front of the art museum right there. No, they don't keep score. You can take as many bases as you want. Like there's barely 3 outs. Like it's just wild. It's just a kid's like running all over the place.
Yeah, we skipped T-ball because I was like, I'm not doing this shit. It's
Yeah,
just-
honestly, I asked my cousin who just had a kid. I'm like, "Oh, you're gonna put him in like soccer?" And he's like, "I'm not doing that."
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna show up and watch kids run around and,
It's
and I
painful.
have to associate with the other parents I don't even like.
That's a whole.
Yeah,
nother-
right.
That's a whole nother thing.
I don't even want to talk to these people.
Exactly. That's a whole nother thing. Where I'm going with this, there is one kid that young boy he was on the opposing team this season that Cecilia played, and he was locked in and dialed. Like he knew the rules,
Yeah,
right? He was hitting bombs, like he was
Yeah.
hitting into the outfield,
Yeah.
running full speed, taking multiple bases, like just like
The
dialed.
next Bryce Harper. Yeah.
Dialed, and he stood out so
Yeah.
much because it was absolute chaos
Yeah.
on the field, and
And
then
then
he
he's
was
an
actually
athlete.
like
He's
playing.
locked in. He's locked in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was locked in.
So yeah, like you were training. You wanted to go every day, and then you wanted to compete as much also.
Yeah, so then I was just a competitive kid, so I just enjoyed
Yeah.
competition. And that was another thing too, like talking about not having that many kids around. Like there wasn't even that many girls around.
Yeah.
I mean, Danielle Kelly was on the scene at the time. And there was like another girl who was on the scene at the time, but I barely went against them. Like I had to go against boys for the
Yeah.
most part because we were different weight classes. Like
So in the tournaments, you would go against guys.
yeah, I would go against boys. I grew up fighting majority boys. Like if there was a girl, they would put me against them. But even if there was a girl, my dad would put me in
The guys bracket.
the guys bracket.
Yeah.
Then he would put me in the weight class above me. Then he would put me in the age above my
Wow.
age. And then the age and the weight above me.
Savage.
Dude,
Yes.
I didn't even think your dad's
So
got,
I would
Mr.
do-
Levy's got my wheels
Yeah.
turning now. I only put Parker in his one
Savage.
bracket.
I would do like 9 divisions.
Well, you're
in
there
a
all
day,
day. Yeah, you're
and
there.
I would just get up from one match. They would be calling my name at like 3 other mats, and I would just go to the next one, win or lose. Like not even having time to process if I won or
Good.
lost.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yep, just going right to the next one. Cardio was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I swear that's why I'm still like very conditioned, is because I just grew up doing that.
That is a.
What?
I don't
At
even
that
think he
age,
realized
He
how.
could-
how
dude, he knew what he was doing. Are you
yeah,
kidding
like
me?
that's. I'm like, yo, he was building a killer. Like
Yeah.
no wonder.
Exactly.
And then my uncle, his twin, was just as invested in my career as he
Yeah.
was. So I basically had like 2 dads that were just.
Yeah.
Did they have
Listen.
what was it like outside of competition? So obviously they're training every day, but what was it like? Were they like nutrition wise and like sleep and stuff? Were they on you with that stuff too, or no?
No, I feel like back then, like especially even as a kid, like it didn't really matter. Like I always ate a lot. Like if I had
Yeah.
to cut weight, they would be like, "All right, Amanda, like we have to like settle down."
No ice cream tonight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're probably burning plenty. Though,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then as I got older, so like when I wanted to do MMA, like my dad was like started getting on me about nutrition. I did have a strength and conditioning coach as like
Okay.
a teenager.
Yeah.
And yeah, then they just started dialing everything in as I started getting older.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just so cool because like if my dad was working, my uncle would take me to competition.
cool.
Sometimes they both would go.
That's cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I was just, like,
they were
super
like core
lucky.
memories for you.
Yeah, I was just so lucky.
Was
They
it?
need to write a book
Yo,
for the youth.
Yeah,
what
right.
was? I mean, amazing hack by them too, because you're there. If you're doing gi and no gi, you're there all day. Anyway,
Yeah.
you're just sitting around waiting for your next match. You were busy the whole time.
Oh,
Like if Parker had matches
the
all day,
whole
I
time.
have no problem. The
Yes.
worst part of it is sitting around.
Yeah, oh yeah, it is for sure. Like waiting for the match to start. It's a whole. I tell everyone, I'm like, if you sign up for a tournament, just get ready for like the biggest roller coaster of emotion of your life.
Yeah,
because
it's crazy.
You get like nervous, you get excited. If you win, you're
hurry
like
up, you
so
wait.
happy. Then if you lose, you're so down. Like it's
Yeah.
just a whole ordeal.
Sounds like entrepreneurship.
Yeah,
a
it
little
sounds
bit.
a
Yeah,
lot
it sounds like
like
entrepreneurship a lot.
So at home you have like medals galore. I guess.
Yeah. So
Naga belts.
Yeah, actually, I don't even put them out. I just have them like I had like so many Naga belts that I actually got rid of some.
Yeah.
Problem?
I just have like a whole like laundry baskets full of them.
Yeah.
It's wild.
The one year we actually decorated the one Christmas tree with just like all of my medals,
That
which is
is
pretty cool.
That is amazing.
I
Do
think
you
it's
have
great.
photos of that?
I probably do. I'll have to look
We
for
have
it.
to get that as a cover photo for the you and the tray for
Yeah.
the show.
I think it's crazy your dad never wanted to train at all. Your uncle.
Okay, so they did for like a couple months.
Okay.
Yeah.
They trained for like such a short period of time, and they weren't bad at it. They actually competed too.
Wow.
okay.
But my dad's first match ever, he did get choked unconscious. Yeah.
He was like, I'm not tapping.
He got
I'm not
guilty.
fucking
I know
going.
it wasn't even that. He was like, I legit. It was one of those ones where he's like, I didn't feel anything.
It comes on quick.
It just
yeah.
came on. It was like hit. Must have been right on the
Yeah, right
arteries where he
on.
didn't even
That's
feel like he
the
was getting
thing, too.
choked,
Gi?
and it just went out.
Was it gi?
No, it was no gi.
No gi?
Yeah.
That's the thing too in tournaments. Like they're going full set. Like we probably never had a gi team rip that hard in training or in the room. But like, hey, the tournament, that guy's looking to win.
Oh,
Like, he's ripping that
100%.
gi to the fucking moon.
Yeah.
Ironically, we just saw the kid the adult now that choked him unconscious. He was at Webb's, and my dad was like, "Oh my god!" He's like, "Dude, how are you?" And like they were
Like,
shaking
I
each other's
remember
hand.
you.
Yeah. It was funny.
That's
cool.
crazy.
At least he's still training the guy.
Yeah, he is still training. I think he's probably a black belt now. Probably.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Crazy. You said that when you first started, you didn't really tell kids in school that you were training. Like, when did that come to light that you were training? Like, if
You know
you're
what,
out
too?
there and
I
you're
think I
competing
knew
constantly,
it looked
like
weird. Like, you know what I mean? Like the close contact. So I didn't even like want to tell anyone because I'm like, it looks weird. And I had a majority of my friends are girls. It's like you're in like 6th, 7th, 8th grade, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're gonna think I'm so weird.
Exactly.
So I kind of just kept it hush hush. And then like when like I actually had like a tournament, and then I was like couldn't like hang out with them or something, or like they had a sleepover and I couldn't sleep over. I just told
Oh,
them.
you didn't
like,
even tell your closest
yeah,
friends.
I just ended up telling them, and they're like, they didn't really like say anything or like
Yeah.
about it, honestly. And then when I got to high school, I tried to join Ryan's wrestling team.
That's what I was gonna bring it up
Yes,
there.
and they wanted the archdiocese doesn't like girls wrestle with boys.
okay.
So even if a Catholic school boy gets put up against a public school girl, the archdiocese makes the boy forfeit. So you could be in the championship. Imagine you're in the
for real.
championship match.
It was a gift and a curse though for us, because being on the boys wrestling team. Like if you're at a tournament, you probably remember, but like the guy going against the girl, the guy was like the public enemy number one. Everyone's cheering for the girl.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I understand that too. Like even growing up, like I knew that like I had nothing to lose to these guys. Like boys definitely have
Yeah, it's
more to
lose-lose.
lose.
It's
Yeah,
lose-lose.
it's 100%. Like and I totally understand that, and I respected guys for still competing with me
Yeah.
because of that reason.
So they didn't let you wrestle on the team. How does?
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
so they didn't let me wrestle on the team. So I tried to sign up. They were like, no, you can't. The archdiocese doesn't let girls wrestle with boys. So we like fought the archdiocese. I was like on the news. I was on like the front page of the Metro in Philly.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Yeah, I made my rounds on.
That's cool.
The
Yeah.
news
All right,
for
now.
sure. And the archdiocese basically came back with like the most sexist statement. They were like basically saying they teach gender differences and like this whole thing. Like, dude, a sport's not like you know what I mean.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know, whatever. So anyway, I just like kind of like chalked it up. I probably could have sued them, but I didn't even bother because I'm like I was doing jiu-jitsu every day anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
And looking in hindsight, I kind of wish I join a club or something, because wrestling is just such a good aspect of jiu-jitsu that I wish I did it as a kid.
Life-changing sport too.
Yeah, but I'm like, luckily I'm very proficient at wrestling because I enjoy it so much. Like I really do love the sport. I like watching it now and stuff like that. So my wrestling is really good. But
I thought you wrestled before I heard that story. Did you ever think about like going to a public school or anything or no?
Oh no. Yeah.
So in public, it was just parochial. They didn't allow
Correct.
boys and girls on the wrestling team, but in public they did.
Yeah.
So then that's how you were
So
getting. So I didn't wrestle. So that's how you got matched up with.
Well, we didn't because we would have to forfeit.
Or you'd have to forfeit. But
like,
that's how the matchup at least happened. And then you'd
tournament.
have to forfeit. Okay, now I get it. I get it.
So
So you could have went to a public school or, like you said, joined like a club or something.
Yeah.
What weight would you have wrestled at that? Like, were you like a smaller?
I was like, so the year they got it at Ryan, I was a junior. So I was probably 140s, which is like bigger for girls, I guess, at that age. I definitely was always weight heavier just because I have a lot of muscle.
Yeah.
But like even now, I'm like considered like a heavyweight, even though I don't think I'm a heavyweight when you look at actual heavyweights.
You hardly look like a heavyweight. Yeah.
Like ADCC, I could have been in like the heavyweight. I dropped weight to do the last ADCC, but the heavyweight division, because it's 143 and above.
Oh, okay.
That's heavyweight.
Yeah. So I dropped down to 143 because I walk around at 165.
Crazy.
And like 165 compared to girls who are weighing over 200 pounds, like that's a lot of weight. That is a lot of weight.
That's an insane amount.
Yes.
That shouldn't even be a thing.
Yeah. So I'm like, if I'm 165, I might as well just drop down to 143. I fought at 145, so like, it's not like I wasn't accustomed to like dropping weight. So I'm like, dude, this will be way better for me if I just fight it, especially with because I tore my ACL before that. So I'm like, it'll be better for my knee to be lighter anyway. And dealing with heavyweight girls with a knee injury, I can't imagine would be fun.
No.
Recipe. Yeah.
Probably felt a lot better too, like going against lighter people rather than heavier people.
And then even like honing in on the diet, like my inflammation had to be so down that like it probably helped my knee so much. So honestly, I think it was just the perfect recipe of like, all right, let's get everything, you're doing PT, you're doing the diet right, so you're eating right, you're not inflamed. That's probably double thumbs up on recovery.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And all the work JJ was doing for you too probably felt like amazing.
Yeah.
Like all the
She's the best. So
because I feel like even with like dry needling and stuff, like I feel like that. I mean, I don't know, but maybe it has like anti-inflammation effects.
Oh, 100%. I would always walk into Primal, and when I was walking out after seeing JJ, I would always feel like my knee felt 1,000 times better. It's just insane.
That's what we were just saying before. Shout out to JJ from Primal Physical Therapy. You heal not only physical ailments but spiritual ailments as well.
Emotional ailments.
Yeah.
You're just leaving there.
You cleanse.
Yeah. What's that called? I forget the technical, the scientific name for it, but the place you go to, you like pilgrimage to, and you leave a changed person, like
an ayahuasca journey.
Mind and body. I've never done that, but maybe it's something like that. I don't know, but that's what Prime was. Whatever that is, that's what Prime was. So the wrestling didn't work out, but you were doing jiu-jitsu all the time. When? So you had mentioned that there was some striking maybe at that like first kids class or first school.
I was lucky because I would always do striking like on and off. I was never consistent with it. So like I would sign up at a boxing gym. I would box for like a year, and then I would be like off of it for like 2 years because I couldn't really fight yet. So like, you know, I just like didn't have like interest in it because again I wasn't going to compete in it.
Sure.
And then eventually when I knew I wanted to do MMA, so like around 17, 18, I did more striking. I had my first MMA fight, I think I was 20, because I couldn't find girls that were actually willing to fight me because they would see my jiu-jitsu background and they'd be like, absolutely not.
Absolutely.
That's right, because now your stuff's on YouTube now or wherever.
And Grappler's Quest back in the day did such a great job of putting everything on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like they would have videographers there for all the matches.
Which is crazy at those years. Like that was like not a thing.
Yeah, it wasn't
probably
a thing.
super hard.
He was definitely way ahead of the curve on that because he videoed so much, and he had so many of my YouTube videos, like so many of my matches on YouTube.
Yep.
Yeah.
So like a couple of them have like millions. Like one has like 10 million. And
Really?
another one has
That's
like
wild.
3 million. I'm like, yeah, I'm
Was-
kind of bitter.
what,
I
like-
don't
like-
get any of that.
Like
It's
Yeah.
me.
you smoking a guy or something like.
The one was I actually beat a guy and he was like shirt. It was like a teenager. He was like shirt off, like super muscular.
Yeah.
And then I was super muscular at the time, and I was just wearing like a sports bra, so I was like fit as hell.
Yeah.
And it was the UFC Expo. So the UFC used to do expos in Vegas, and Grapplers Quest would do a tournament at the expo. So it was so cool. I wish they would still do it because the UFC expos were sick. You would meet like all the MMA fighters would be like at different
Yeah, that's
stands. Then you
cool.
would have like tons of products. Like questionnaire, like people like answering questions and stuff. It was so cool. But yeah, so I would always go to them. Almost
So that
like
was
every
that
year.
match.
And that was at the
Okay.
expo.
Well, I know what I'm doing when I go home.
I know,
I'm
same,
looking up
same.
Amanda Leve.
Yeah. So I'm like, dude, it's pretty cool because I probably have. I mean, I'm sure Gordon has like a lot of views on his thing, but I wouldn't be surprised if my videos have more views than his videos.
Yeah.
Because when I tell you these Grappler Quest videos have millions, they have millions.
That's
It's
crazy.
insane.
Exactly. I'm
Yeah,
gonna check. That's what I'm doing after.
yeah,
this.
I'll
Like
I'll
the one
ta-
I lost in it has 10 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow,
And you know,
wow.
people in the comments are just so annoying.
We were
but-
just talking about it in the last episode.
Yeah, we were
Yeah.
talking about how wild YouTube is in the
Yeah.
comments. Is wild.
and
Wild.
it's funny because like I was like 15 at the time, and I remember like reading and now there's people that say like don't read the comments, but like I was a 15-year-old, and back in that time like no one was like there was no Joe Rogan being like don't read the
Don't read
comments.
your comments,
yeah. So I remember just reading the comments and getting so mad because like people would be like, oh, she's on steroids.
Oh
like,
my god.
I
she
can
does
imagine.
this, or they would say like stupid like gross sexual things, which is like terrible.
They-
Things they can say with like no repercussions
Yeah,
from
yeah.
their basement. You know what I mean? Eating Cheetos or whatever.
That was what Sean Brady's famous line now in the.
Oh,
media
during his
day.
during the
he's
interview,
like, some fucking guys about basically eating Cheetos.
yeah. So then you started. So you were striking a little bit. When did the desire to fight set in for you?
Definitely, I love this story too because it was so cool. My last MMA fight, Chris Cyborg was at my fight. So for people that don't know, she's like a pioneer of like women's MMA. So when I was 13, I watched her fight Gina Carano in Strikeforce for the belt, and that was like the first huge MMA fight for women. And I remember like how excited me and my dad were, and like we were on the couch, like we went out to dinner before then we got home. We like sat on the couch, we were watching it.
I love that.
That's awesome.
I love that.
I actually like got to like tell the story in the interviews like that they were giving me before, like because I fought for the PFL, so it was like we did like a media day and stuff like that. So they like did some interviews with me, and I told this story, and she was actually there in the audience as they played that. So I'm like, that's so cool.
Oh, that's
and
full
I got to
circle
meet her
moment.
after. Yeah, it was so neat. But yeah, so that was the first time I really was like, oh, I want to be a MMA fighter.
Mm-hmm.
And then my first MMA fight was like awesome because it was like in New York. My whole family came out, and it's just like you like want to do this for so long, and then you finally get to do it.
Yeah.
And I like beat the girl in like the first round in like 3 minutes or something with like a triangle. And then I had my second MMA fight, and that was in West Virginia, and that's like a wild place because that's like pro rules when you're an amateur.
Uh-huh.
And I like ended up like knocking the girl down. I won that fight. It wasn't like a knockout, but it was decision. And then I just could not get a fight after that. And it was to the point where I like reached out to like a management company and was like, if you hear of anything, like let me know because I needed to fight. And I'm like, I might as well just go pro at this point.
The whole time are you training at Marquez? So.
No, so I didn't start training at Marquez till after my first pro fight.
Okay.
So I was training at a place called Beacon MMA in Jersey. His name's Robert Peach, and he's like such a great, like well-rounded MMA coach. Like he fought, he used to fight back in the day, but he like coached a lot of MMA fighters, a lot of people that went to the Contender Series, Bellator, stuff like that. So he has great Muay Thai, great Jiu-Jitsu. I started working with him. We went to the PFL, and that was like that was like heavyweight because I was like 155, and I like when I eat clean, I walk around 155. You know what I mean? Like 165 when I'm like not caring what I eat.
Yeah.
When I like hone my diet in, I'm 155. So I literally was just like eating steak the night before.
Yeah.
I remember like stepping on the scale to make sure I was good. So I like brought my steak dinner down. All these girls are cutting weight. I like go to the test scale the night before weigh-ins with like 2 water bottles and my steak.
And a
steak. And I stepped on the scale with both of them. I'm like, all right, cool, I'm good. And I went up and ate it.
Great, dude.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So that
So
was like fun.
Your opponent that just sucked all this weight, and you're like literally well fed.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah. So it felt good to like fight at your natural weight and feel good.
Yeah.
And that's why I do like jiu-jitsu, like fighting at my natural weight. I will always prefer to fight at my natural weight for sure.
I've always wondered like if people would do that. Like, would you have more success potentially just fighting at your natural weight, not inflaming, eating well? Like maybe like because a lot of these fighters could probably be at such a lower weight if they ate well all year round.
Yeah.
But like,
I feel like back in the day they could get away with it. Like I think Frankie Edgar did that back in the day, and he was able to get away with it for a little bit. But like fighting close to your natural weight like that.
Yeah.
But like I think nowadays, I think you don't really have a choice
yeah.
for MMA. I think there's just like the talent's just too good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was so you had a couple, how many amateurs did you have? before you
Just
went?
2.
Yeah, 2.
Yeah, and then I did like a boxing match before. I did a kickboxing match before. So I did one of those, the 2 amateur fights, and then the PFL called, and I was like, let's do it.
Okay.
And they were such a great organization to fight for. They're the coolest people. Ray Sefo is like the president. He's a badass previous fighter. And then, so he cares about the fighters and stuff, which is cool. They pay well. And yeah, I really enjoyed fighting for them. They were really awesome.
Yeah.
So then, what after that fight?
So then I had my second pro fight with them.
And you're undefeated in those 2 fights, right?
Yeah.
In PFL?
Yeah, so I had my second pro fight with them, and that was for a contract with them for their $1 million tournament. So they do like 4 fights. You like earn points depending on how you win, and you have the opportunity to win $1 million. So I won the contract that night because they pick out of the 4 fights that fight that night, they pick one person to get a contract. I got the contract. Then they were like, okay, we're fighting in Vegas. Here's the medicals you need for Nevada commission. So they require like so much more. So I got like an MRI of my head, an MRA of my head, and the MRA looks at the arteries in your blood vessels in your brain, and they found like an aneurysm, and of course, like right where this aneurysm is placed, they're like, you cannot
Point of contact.
Yeah, you cannot take damage to the head because if this gets like dislodged, like you're either gonna die or go blind.
Wow.
And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. So that was like so hard for me because like I identified with being a fighter since I was like a kid, right? And then I remember like the first time I was at Trader Joe's and I was like wearing a tank top, and it was just after my first pro fight, and someone was like, whoa, what do you do? Like, and I was like, oh, I'm a professional fighter. I'm proud. I was so proud of it. And then I just like got taken away like that. And then because you're on like the highest high, and then that is just the lowest low because you feel like your identity's been taken.
Yeah, you're going into that doctor's appointment on the cloud 9. Like you literally just achieved everything you wanted thus far, and then you literally completely unsuspecting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you're completely going in to do those medicals. That was the furthest thing from your mind.
Yeah.
That something like that was going to happen.
It was
right?
like routine. You were like, oh, I just need to go do this today and go home.
Yeah, and I remember like getting a call from like the doctor in like the morning, like 2 days after, and I missed it, and then they called me again like that night, and I was like, oh, this can't be good because it's like a Sunday, and I like remember like thinking like crap, and I answered the phone, and he's like, give me this like the rundown, and then I like just walked downstairs, and I'm like already crying, and my boyfriend's in the kitchen, and I'm like, so I can't fight anymore.
Oh my
And
god!
the guy's like, yeah, you definitely should not be like taking trauma to the head. Yeah. And I just was like bawling. I'm like, this is terrible.
Yeah.
And then too, it's just like, it wasn't even just me it affects, right? Because like my family has watched me put all my effort, like, you know what I mean? Like, and I am not a slacker by any means.
All the chips. Like,
yes.
all the chips.
So like I always eat right. I train. I never missed training. I exercised, like anything and everything. I just always would put 1,000% into MMA, right? And then like, so like it was almost like a loss for all of them because like I was crying, and then like my dad's crying, my mom's crying, my sister's crying. My brother's crying, like, you know what I mean? Like, everyone's, like, literally feels like someone actually died, which is, like, so dramatic, but, like...
Well, your dream died, essentially.
Yeah, for
thing.
sure.
Well, change.
Yeah.
A piece of the dream.
Yeah,
died.
absolutely.
But then...
so other pieces could live.
Exactly. So you... At what point do you change course? Or
yeah, so then I was like, I'm just done everything. I'm like, you know, like, I'm just not going to compete anymore. And everyone's like...
You're saying across the board too.
Yeah, because I was happy to leave jiu-jitsu. That's like the piece that's missing here is the first time I could tell a jiu-jitsu promoter, no, I cannot take a jiu-jitsu match because I have an MMA fight coming up. Yeah. I was so happy. Like,
why though?
Just because, again, like I always just felt like I was doing jiu-jitsu for MMA. You know what I mean? Like I never looked at
like,
jiu-jitsu.
MMA was always here.
Yes, like I always wanted the MMA dream. Like I never wanted the jiu-jitsu dream. I was just fortunate enough that I was good at jiu-jitsu to be able to compete at a high level. But I just always wanted the MMA life, like and the goal was always to be an MMA fighter. So I didn't want to go back because it felt like I was taking a step back, right? Because then I'm like, I have to go back to jiu-jitsu now. And then at that time I was out of jiu-jitsu for like a year because I wasn't really focusing on it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like these girls are going to be so much better than me because they've only been focusing on jiu-jitsu for the last year. So then I was like nervous to go back to jiu-jitsu and like get my ass kicked in like a tournament. But then I just started because I didn't stop training. I'm like, I'll train jiu-jitsu till I can't. Because again, it's like therapy. Like, you know how people like coin it like, oh, it's therapy, which it is for me. Like I feel so much better after a roll. So I was just training throughout the summer. And then trials was like October of that same year I found out. And I was just like doing so well, like training, that I was like, maybe if I compete, like the fire will come back to want to compete again. And I like killed it at trials, which felt really good to be back. Then I killed it at West Coast trials, but I tore my ACL. And then I got the invite for ADCC, and I was able to compete in August. So I mean, it was definitely like a full circle moment, and it feels good to be back in jiu-jitsu. But I will say there is nothing compared to the preparation of an MMA fight or the glory of winning an MMA fight, because the risk reward is so much greater than jiu-jitsu.
Would you say the glory of winning an MMA fight is comparable to that of the Gabby Garcia match?
Oh yeah, so I will say that was probably the greatest highlight of my life was the Gabby Garcia match. So like for people that don't know, like Gabby was only defeated I think like 2 or 3 times before I beat her, but she would like it would be like by an advantage point, right? Like it was never like
never submitted.
It was and it was like never like a huge like, oh my god, this girl killed Gabby by any means. And Gabby wouldn't reveal her weight, but we say she's probably like 265. Yeah. Like if you see her in person, you actually cannot believe the way she looks.
Makes from leaving all the CJI stuff. It made Craig Jones look small.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And he's a big guy.
She's like 6'3", I think. Yeah. So I like got into this Who's Number One tournament, and it was like, 8 women that were like considered really good at the time, and I was like lucky. It was literally right after my first pro fight, and so I was in like good shape too going into it, and I knew I was gonna be seated 8th, and I knew I was gonna fight her first. And she didn't weigh in. Like they made us all weigh in, which is kind of stupid that they made us weigh in because there's no weight class. It's 143 and above. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like there's a cap.
So everyone weighed in but her?
Yeah, so everyone weighed in, and she just casually strolls in late.
Is she getting special treatment because of...
Yes, because she's who she
is. Yeah.
So I'm, like, annoyed. I'm like, I have to fight her, and I'm like, no, we don't know her weight.
It's not only you. I'm imagining everybody else is super annoyed, too.
Yeah. So I'm like,
it's probably good, though, because you're not... You don't know her weight, but you could...
Once you get that number, you're probably
like, exactly.
Yeah, well, I was like, well, what if I win? I want to know her weight when I win, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So I get something to brag about. But, so anyway, so she was like mad that I called her out on it. We had like a press conference, and I'm not one to ever be confrontational. Yeah. So even when my sister was seeing this on social media, she's like telling my mom, like, Mom, Amanda's like being like controversial. Like she started something. Mom's like, our Amanda started something? Like, get out of here. And yeah, she like called me like, I don't know. Am I allowed to curse on here?
Yeah.
Okay,
curse, yeah.
She called me like a pussy.
Really?
Yeah, like on like
In the
press conference, and she's like saying it's not under contract, and I'm like, okay, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Like that's fine. And I could tell I definitely got in her head because then she even went on social
that'll
media.
do it. That'll do it.
Yeah, she even went on social media and started going off.
Because she's not used to that kind of.
No.
Yeah.
So going on social media and going off before the match.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's expending energy.
Yes,
Like that's
100%.
expending energy. You know what I mean?
And then the morning of, I woke up and I'm like, damn, what did I do, dude? Like, because you know what I mean?
It's here.
She's so much heavier than me. Like, all she has to do is just do something stupid. And that's another reason why I was kind of mad that she was even in this division, because fighting someone 100 pounds heavier than you is dangerous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, all she has to do is sprawl on me a weird way, and my back is like screwed.
Plus, that's after your first pro fight.
Yeah.
So you did not know that you would no longer be fighting MMA at that time.
Exactly.
So that's running through your mind too. Like, you know, I have more fights ahead of me. Like, yeah.
Yep.
And you're no ACL problems until.
Oh yeah, no ACL problems. So I was like healthy.
So morning of it set in though.
Yeah.
You were kind of like, wait, what am I about to do?
Yes.
I just fucking pissed this girl off.
Yes, exactly. I'm like, why did I even say anything?
The mind is crazy, right? Like you were probably like, yeah, I'm sure you had nerves and things like that, but then like the day of, your mind's kind of like, I'm gonna mess with you now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
like, let me send some
two,
signals down.
Yeah, she's like number 1 seed, and I'm number 8. I'm like, I have nothing to lose here, dude.
Yeah,
I am the underdog times 100 against you.
Yeah.
For every pound that she has over you, that's just
and
times 100,
honestly,
yeah.
I'm not one to back down anyway. Like, I'm like, again, like even before I compete, I tell myself, I'm like, don't make monsters of these women.
Yeah.
Like, they're just women.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
That's what that's the mindset I do like teach him to with like famous people or people. So like I don't celeb worship anybody. Everyone's just a man.
Human.
Just like I'll never wear another man's name on my back. Like it's just what it is. Like.
Yep. And then the morning of, my favorite thing ever is that my dad texted me and said, like 5 minutes before I was about to go on, he's like, "You're gonna shock the world."
Oh, that's amazing.
Yes. And then they did like a 10-minute documentary of like the whole match and like the whole like press conference stuff. Like Flow Grappling did it, and they put the title "Amanda Leve Shocks the World." Tell me that's not
without
weird.
saying that.
I don't know.
Without knowing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, I think Mr. Levy might be get on the
Your
list of
dad
guests,
and
dude.
your, and your uncle, both of them.
Yeah.
We gotta have them on the show, and they gotta write a book.
Yeah.
They gotta write a book.
That's crazy.
The story's not over yet, so maybe they should just be drafting right now.
Yeah, for sure. So,
Drafting the book.
So I went out there, and I really think I won just because I wasn't afraid of her. Like, I think a lot of these girls like fought her and like respected her too much. Because like at the end of the day, like her jiu-jitsu really isn't good. It's just that she gets away with a lot because she's so big.
Yeah.
You know? So I put a clinic on her. Like full clinic. And I like don't even mean to brag, but I'm like, if you watch the match, like I destroyed her with like basic jiu-jitsu. And like it's crazy because the night before, with Jay Regalbuto, he was in my corner with my boyfriend Christian. But that night we were game planning what we were going to do against Gabby, and it was almost like we wrote a script out and handed it to her and was like, "Yo, can you reenact this with us?" Because it worked out so perfectly. Like our game plan just literally was the exact game plan that we hit in the whole match.
Was that Jay's like master plan?
It was.
Jay's been in the corner of a lot of.
Oh, Jay's
big
one of the
names.
most knowledgeable.
The gang was here yesterday, and we were just saying the same exact thing.
Yep, he's so knowledgeable. It's just insane. He studies jiu-jitsu like no one I've ever seen before. You know, just like watches so much footage of jiu-jitsu and just the commentating. You know, he watches so much jiu-jitsu from commentating. The instructionals. Just he's the man.
Student of the game.
So it just like it was just literally the plan played out literally perfect. The whole crowd was like so deafening that I wish I could just relive it on repeat, like I told you guys earlier. And you know, I just like again, I wish I could just relive the moment. But then like my whole social media blew up. Like it definitely put me on the map for sure. And it was just such a great experience.
you already must have been making waves too, because like the fact that you even got on the card is like saying something.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
like, you were definitely.
Yeah, so I was definitely like known a little around like the area because I won trials in 2019 too, and that was 2021 I fought her. So yeah, so I was definitely on the map before, but that really like cemented my place.
Yeah.
What did that morning, the morning of, when the mind started to mess with you a little bit? Like, what am I doing? Like, what did I get myself into? What did you do to overcome that? It sounds like you had a solid plan, right? It sounds like you said to yourself, "Hey, look, I don't really have anything to lose here." Like, it sounds like those played into it. But was there anything else, like just from like a mindset standpoint?
So I made sure I had like a good walkout song that I knew would like get me like
What was
upbeat. It was actually September by Earth, Wind and Fire.
Yeah.
Like I just wanted something like groovy that I was gonna make me happy.
Keeping the vibes up.
So it's like funny because like around September, like that's like still like my favorite song ever, just because I
Solid
walked out to it.
track.
Yeah.
Dude, it's all the mindset, dude. That's
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Like Nicky Rod, I don't know if you guys know watch CJI, but like he watched a milli every time was his walkout. Like literally, he just fucking told the universe, like fucking a milli.
Yep.
Like, that's sick.
And again, ironically, I started working with a mindset coach before my first pro fight.
Yeah.
Okay.
So his name's Mindset Mike, and he was big in like the wrestling community for like wrestling mindset and stuff. And
So you had some extra tools in the toolbox too.
Yeah. So basically, just like training your thoughts to kind of like stay in between the lines and not like when it starts to veer off, like mantras to help you steer it back on. Reminding yourself of stuff, or even just saying like instead of saying like I'm nervous, just being like I'm so excited.
Reframing.
I'm so excited.
Mental frameworks.
Yeah. And I will say like now, like my mindset for like competing is the best it's probably ever been.
Yeah.
Like I'd rather be entertaining and lose than fight going out there and just like fighting not to lose.
Yeah.
Like fighting to win is so different than fighting not to lose. And I like harp on this all the time. I'm like, I will forever be out there going for the win over fighting not to lose. To put on a crappy performance that's not entertaining and you didn't really go after it, I'm like, I want to get after it.
Yeah,
I want someone who's going to scrap with me back too.
Yeah.
So like that's why like my last match at ADCC, like the girl was like not really giving much, like super stalling, like so to me, I'm like, it's just a crappy way to win. Get after it.
Yeah.
Like trade with me.
It's funny. So that Nick Salas, my coach, just walked in, and like that's him and Danny say that a lot. Like people a lot in jiu-jitsu just fight not to lose, and and the big argument in jiu-jitsu now, the guard pulling and not guard pulling, like they're like we play all of our backs pulling guard, and it's like they're 9 times out of 10 they're the ones engaging, the other person is backing away and not engaging, and that's ADCC too. You see a lot of hand fighting, a lot of not engaging, and just like just trying not to lose, not get caught in anything.
You make a really interesting point. Like you're blending fighting to win with having fun, and like because you're having fun with it.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of the times when I hear people say like, well, I'm just going to go out there and have fun with it, they're not actually fighting to win too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because they're almost saying like, I'm going to go out there and have fun, and like the outcome doesn't matter, but you're blending those two things together. You're going out there and you're saying, look, this is going to be entertaining. Like I'm going to give it all I got, like the best show. I'm going to have fun, but I'm also going to win.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm going to do both.
Yeah.
Which I think is amazing.
Yeah.
And it's so much easier to transition back to jiu-jitsu when you've done MMA because like you're not getting punched in the face. You're not going to get knocked out. You know what I mean? So it's just almost like more freeing after like coming back to it because I'm like, I just have a tougher mentality and I'm coming back on the jiu-jitsu stage. I'm like, so now I just feel great because I have a tough mentality and I'm willing to like really scrap.
Yeah. It's, I mean, your energy too, like you like just like locked in, you know what I mean? Like you're like, this is where I'm going, this is what I'm doing. And like, it's just is what it is.
Young Amanda, do you think you had those same type of like mindset tools, but you just didn't know how to use them or speak to them? Because you had to have somewhat of that mindset from like competing from an early age and going in there and enjoying it and not having to be convinced to go to practice. And
probably also
they had to be there.
Mr.
Right?
Levy's hell, he didn't let you be a bitch about it or anything either.
Exactly. I didn't have a chance.
Exactly.
I didn't have a prayer to be a bitch about anything. You know what? I think I just competed so often that it was just like second nature to me. You know what I mean? Like I didn't even like think twice of it. But like if I did lose, so I will say this was the thing with losing. If I lost, lost and it was not a good match, my dad would get mad.
Yeah.
But if I lost and it was a good fight, he wouldn't care. You know
So
what
if
I
you
mean?
were out there fighting to win.
Yes,
Same.
exactly.
Yeah,
Same.
of course.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
it's all about the effort.
subconsciously, that probably helped a lot.
Yeah.
But when I tell you, I would lose to the most muscular teenage boy.
Yeah.
And my dad would be behind the refs with his arms crossed and like shaking his head like in disbelief that I just lost. And I'm like, I'm just getting my hand like the other guy's getting his hand raised, and I'm just like standing there like, dude, Dad, what did you expect?
Yeah.
What's this kid next to me?
That's funny.
Yeah. I think he always saw your potential. He
Yeah,
knew.
for
He knew what
sure.
you were capable of. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I think competing a lot too, like you said, Parker only competes once in a while, but like it makes the losses that much harder. But if you're competing all the time, you never have time to even really sulk or feel.
Especially like
the losses don't
same
hit
day.
that hard. If you're losing
Yeah.
all the time, not that you were, but like frequently losing, like
Yeah.
once, like it's a lot different than losing once every 3-4 months.
Yeah, it's like reps, like
Yeah.
getting reps of stuff.
Yeah,
just
100%.
When you're competing a lot, if you're winning, losing, like
Yeah.
it just becomes to the point where it's just
Exactly.
like not even a thing.
Yes.
You just walk off to the next match.
Yeah.
I do say the one thing I always say,
Learning.
like in MMA Jiu-Jitsu, like I mean, maybe not Jiu-Jitsu really, but in MMA, one loss is like a huge thing. Like Michael Jordan lost thousands of times, but for some reason in MMA, you only get the grace of like one loss. Like,
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so
Or two
it's-
losses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of stupid again too. But I like look at like fighters like Cowboy, you know, and he's like such a scrappy,
Yeah.
like badass. You know,
Yep.
he's had so many wins, so many losses,
Yeah,
so like
yeah.
that's cool too. But yeah, like I'm in that mindset of like, especially now too in jiu-jitsu, I'm like, I don't care if I win, if I lose. I just want to go out
No,
there
yeah.
and perform. That's
And
it.
that's what will drive you to
stack more W's
yeah,
ultimately.
and stardom. You know what I mean? Because if people want to see, they really don't know. Like, no one knows. I don't know Nicky Rod or Craig Jones' record offhand, or even Gordon Ryan. You know what I mean? But they're great performers, great athletes, and they're fun to watch. You
And
know
it's
what I mean?
crazy too to see so many people that can't compete. Do you know those guys? There's like
Yeah.
guys at these gyms that like are so good at practice, and then they go out and compete, and they cannot compete.
Yeah.
And it amazes me how like the mind can just play a trick on you. Like
So
you're just doing jiu-jitsu out there
Yeah,
too. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like you're just doing jiu-jitsu against another person.
Exactly.
And people's minds just overtake their whole game. It's like
Yeah.
it like overrides their system
Yeah,
and
it's like
just
they
makes them
forget.
into a completely different person.
Yep.
And every single time I see it, I'm like, holy crap, dude.
Yep.
Like you're so good in the gym, and you
Yeah.
can just a competition match just changes your whole game.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Some people I see have the adverse effect too, right? Like they'll be kind of like not slow in the gym, but like less. They don't look as good in the gym, but then you see them in competition, they're
they're
like,
dialed
they're
here.
like, holy shit! Like
Yeah.
they turn
Let it out.
they can turn it up.
Turn it
Yeah,
up.
they
Yeah,
turn it
yeah,
up.
total
Yeah.
opposite. Yep.
Yeah.
Or like the people that eat crap and then go out there and perform.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't get me started. I mean, I swear I work so hard to be so bad at jiu-jitsu. Like I'm like my nutrition style, I work out all the time.
Time just hasn't caught up yet.
Yeah, exactly. I'm on my own journey.
I will
Time hasn't
say,
caught up
so
yet.
the one time I had some stress fractures in my shin, and I was already booked to go to Worlds in like 2016 or something. And I ended up double golding and having like one of the best tournaments of my life and I didn't train for it at all. Like I literally was just like, oh, I'll just go that day. I went out there that day, no training, and double golded. And I
Yeah.
swore it was because I just had no expectations
No.
for myself.
Yeah, you just let it
And
be.
then just let
Yep.
it fly. And actually, one of the practices the mindset coach had me do
Yeah.
was write down all my best matches and what my mindset was for that, or the circumstances around it, and then all my worst matches and the mindset and circumstances around it. And the pattern that I saw was so crazy of like when you have no expectations for yourself and how free, and when you feel free to compete,
Yeah.
how much better you compete. Like
Yeah.
every single match
Yeah.
was just like I let it fly.
Living in the
Yep.
flow, dude.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're freeing up the resources to
Yep.
do what your body wants to do and what you know is right, instead of like soaking up the resources to just mentally like beat yourself up and get in your own mind.
Yep.
You know what
It's
I mean?
funny, like there was a brown belt at Semper Fi where I used to train, and his name was Tim, and he would always be like, people would ask him a question, he'd be like, "You just gotta use your jiu-jitsu, man. Or like, you just gotta use jiu-jitsu."
Yeah.
Or like,
True.
and it's like, so I just go out there and do jiu-jitsu. It's funny,
Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
no mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, no mind. So what was it like after the match with Gabby? Like after the win, what was it like?
Oh, so it was 17 because I still had to compete against the girl who just won ADCC in the heavyweight division.
Yeah.
This past one, and I fought her before, and she's tough. And honestly, felt like I already won the tournament because I just beat the number one
Yeah,
seed.
you did. And
Mindset was just out. You know, everyone's like, I walked in the back and everyone's clapping for me. The other competitors, the one girl literally got down on her knees,
Yeah, well, you just
grabbed my hand and was like, "Thank you for beating her."
Yeah.
I was like, "Wow, this is what a moment."
Amazing.
So you did win, essentially.
Yeah. So then I was just completely out of the tournament, but and not to mention, so I fought her for 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Someone's 100 pounds heavier than you.
You're gassed.
Dude,
Wow.
when I tell you my the veins that were popping out of my arms, I got an interview with Flow Grappling, and it was like 15, 20 minutes after I just beat her, and I'm still like, like explaining the whole rundown of what just happened.
Yeah.
So I like literally went back to the hotel, got a shower, laid down for an hour, and my boyfriend's like, "All right, we have to go back now. You're about to go on again." And I'm like, because like now my body's cool. I feel like crap. I'm like, do I have to go back?
Yeah.
And he's like, I mean, if you don't want to. I'm like, no, I'll go back. And I like went back. I put on a good performance. I really can't complain. I lost by decision. But again, I didn't even care because I was I'm walking away from this weekend and everyone's remembering
Exactly.
If they're remembering one match, it's my match.
Yeah, they probably remember who won the tournament. They were
Exactly.
Exactly. So before your match with her, there was some trash talking and all sorts of stuff. How about afterwards? More trash talking?
Yeah.
Or-
So this is my favorite story to tell. So,
Then let's tell it.
because, so then the next day you could wrestle back for third place, and third place was still $7,000. So,
Oh, wow.
I woke up limping, and she, because she lost the day before, she could also wrestle back. So I said to my boyfriend, I was like, if I have to go against her again, I'm not competing for third place because my body will not be able. It will break under her.
Yeah.
I'm like, if I fight someone else, I will still compete. And Jay called me and was like, "Yo, Gabby's not even answering her phone. Like, she's not coming to compete." And I'm like, "Wow, what a sore loser."
Yeah.
I'm like, "I'll be there in a second. I'm still competing." I ended up losing that day too. I just felt like crap.
Yeah.
Again, didn't care.
Yeah.
That later that night, we were outside of the hotel. It's like 1 a.m. We just were hanging out with a bunch of jiu-jitsu people. They all went in. And then me, my boyfriend, and Jay were like standing outside the hotel. And we're like, "Oh my God, dude, I cannot believe you just did that." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I can't believe it either." And we're just like still discussing it in awe of what happened. And she just comes flying by us on an electric scooter. Because like the Austin has these like electric scooters. They go like 20 miles an hour.
Yeah. Like you pick them up, you drop them wherever you want. Those.
Yeah, they're so awesome.
But
and
it almost what analogy? It almost had to look like she was riding like a miniature like circus bike or something.
Yeah, that's what it looked like.
Because they're small, those things.
At 1 a.m. you said?
What'd you say?
At 1 a.m.?
Yes, at 1 a.m. So, and she knew it was me, so she just kept going up and down the street in front of the hotel and like making these obnoxious noises with her like groupies. I guess like it was like her coach or something that was also on them. I don't know who it was. And her last pass by, I heard her speak Portuguese, but because I've been around so many Brazilians, I was like, she definitely just called me a bitch in Portuguese. And I Googled it, and it said it was the vulgar way of saying it or something.
Like the worst way.
Yes.
Like it's like,
yes.
Yeah, so
and I
she's
was
big
like,
mad.
wow. So then we're like laughing. We were cracking up.
That's wild.
Big mad. She's big
yeah.
mad.
I'm like, dude, you're such a sore loser. I couldn't imagine like being like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was just one of my favorite stories ever because it's just funny. And it just honestly, just that story just tells me everything I need to know about you just by how you reacted after that.
Mm-hmm. Been silent since then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you want to see the true side of a man, like see how he reacts after a loss and not after a win.
Yeah, and like I shook her hand after, like in the back or whatever. Like
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna hold the whole like press conference thing against her. I didn't call her any name. She's the one that called me the names.
Yeah.
I didn't even say anything remotely bad. I just was like, why didn't you weigh in? And we had all weigh in. That was like
Yeah.
the only thing I said the whole press conference.
Which is like a
fair
legitimate
question.
question.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
legitimate
100%.
question. Yeah.
But yeah, and then I got a ton of messages from like former students that said that she was like so mean to them and stuff like that. So I was like, I don't think she's a good person.
Yeah. I mean, based on the evidence and the stories that we've heard today, I can understand where they're coming from, I guess. Yeah. Question?
But my only last question for me is like, what's next? You know what I mean? Like, where do you go from here?
So I want to get like some super fights now for grappling. Just because there's so much, it's so much bigger now than it ever has been. So like the UFC Fight Pass does invitational, Jiu-Jitsu invitational. I'm like, I would love to get on that. Maybe like Paul Harris, which is like in England. I would love to do that. So there's a lot of promotions out there now. So I'm just looking to get a super fight. And you know, when ADCs comes around, or if CJI does like a women's division, oh my gosh, I would love to do that. And CJI would be like my favorite rule set too, because it's that favorite person that's usually on top and like pushing the pace. And I'm like, I feel like it's all to my game plan. Yeah. And honestly, I always wanted a jiu-jitsu tournament that did something similar to like wrestling, and how that wrestling has like periods.
Yeah.
So I think it's cool that they do like the 3-5 minutes. And again, I trained MMA for that. So I'm like, again, this is just so perfect for me. I'm like, I would love to be able to do CJI. So hopefully Craig gets on that with like a women's division.
Oh yeah. Or we could do the women's super fight for the CJI.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's great.
Anything else? Any other questions?
That's all.
I thought you had another one queued up. Where can the community find you on the interwebs, on social media, whatever?
Social media is Amanda Leve _MMA. And it's like funny too, because I don't want to change it back to jiu-jitsu.
I don't.
You don't have
but,
to.
You don't have
and
to.
you too. I always like just say like I want to bring like the MMA mentality to jiu-jitsu. So I want to be tough. I want to be scrappy, and I feel like there's not this new generation coming up for jiu-jitsu. There's definitely like the Vertolos, like they're like scrappy and tough and stuff. But I feel like a lot of the community's not really scrappy and tough, so I'm like, I want to bring the MMA mentality to jiu-jitsu, so I'm gonna keep it.
Keep it. Don't change it.
Yeah.
Don't change it. I had a blast speaking with you today.
No,
so many
nice
great
talking to you
stories. Had fun getting to know you a little bit better. So thank you for coming in. And who knows, maybe we'll see some super fights at HQ soon. Maybe and get you involved here.
We were just talking about it.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna leave with you with a reminder.
Please do.
Always choose hard work over handouts. Always choose effort over entitlement. Remember, no one owns you. No one owes you. You're one of the few. Let's hunt.